Even though generative AI can help you map a system, you have to do it in the community. So we don't do it back at our office, we do it right there in the village with people. We're really focused on trying to help people be resilient and flourish. And for us, what that means is they can overcome poverty, injustice, and marginalization and live in a more resilient, sustainable world. Localization is, how do you give people actual ownership? What does that look like?
I want to welcome everyone back to the Green Hour podcast. We are live at the Concordia Annual Summit during Climate Week, New York City. We're sitting down with Mark Viso, the CEO of Food for the Hungry. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So I think first question is, can you tell us what Food for the Hungry is?
Sure. Food for the Hungry, we're a faith-based Christian relief and development organization that's been around for over 50 years. And we're working in about 20 different countries, doing humanitarian relief all the way to long-term development. So, the name can be a little bit confusing. We started in the early 70s where our founder, Larry Ward, talked about, making sure that people have enough to eat, right? He used a Bible verse, but we really diversified, trying to meet people and communities where they are. And as you know, we all have different challenges.
Right.
For us, we're really focused on trying to help people be resilient and flourish. And for us, what that means is they can overcome poverty, injustice, and marginalization and live in a more resilient, sustainable world. So some of the stuff we do is really around, or we're moving towards, looking at systems. So trying to move from just looking at transactional, linear, additive projects to more transformational platforms that create an ecosystem that people can exchange different types of value and seize control of their own destiny.
Yeah, so instead of helping with just one project,
right,
with this systems approach, you can actually create something that stays in place.
Right. The idea is to come in and partner with communities and, map and identify and deeply understand the systems around them that create these unjust procedures or policies or environments that, contribute to poverty or food insecurity or marginalization, and then figure out what are the levers that can be pulled. And our role as Food for the Hungry is one that is catalytic in nature, right? We don't necessarily deliver things to recipients. We partner with people and discover what our role is. How do we mobilize different partners to make a difference in a systems practice approach?
The question I have down is, can you illustrate how this resilience-based approach works in practice in your communities?
Sure. I think it's a little bit new for us, but resilience has been around for a while, particularly with food security. But we're looking at resilience as a key to how people flourish, how they thrive. The idea being that if you get hit, punched in the stomach, so to speak, and you get knocked down, can you come up and be stronger? And so we look at trying to build capacities around absorptive capacities to be able to absorb a shock. Adaptive capacities, can you mitigate those changes that are challenges or pressures? And transformational capacity, can you change that system in which you or your family or your community exists? And so we work on the ground to do systems practice, which is a key determinant of understanding the ecosystem around you, and then partnering with local governments and foreign governments and other players, businesses, markets to try to make a difference.
So one note that I have down, in your congressional testimony, you position foreign assistance as part of American identity and global stability. Why do you believe U.S. development leadership remains essential?
Yeah, it's a real salient debate right now, given what we've seen happening and particularly given this week at United Nations General Assembly. But, I believe, and I think a lot of my colleagues believe, that U.S. involvement in global development is essential because fundamentally, it's who we are as a country. It's who we are as a people. It's who we are as a nation. We were founded around not being just about taking care of ourselves, but others as well. It's part of our value system. We have over 160,000 people, donors, sponsors, that remind me on a weekly basis that America and other countries, but particularly where we have a large donor base, Americans are some of the most charitable, generous people in the world. And I know that they want their government to reflect that value as well. And so it's who we are, right? And we know that from the people we work in the United States. Also, I think, we have a lot to offer. The world's largest economy, a deep history of trying to make the world a better place. The conversation would be lacking if we weren't a player. And it makes us better as a country as well, stronger, more prosperous, safer.
what are some geographic areas that you might be focused on right now to try to find solutions with this systems approach? Are there specific areas that y'all are looking into?
Yeah, it's a systems practice for us, which includes sort of mapping, what are the systems, designing, and then harvesting the impacts and then replicating and scaling context specific is a little bit new for us, right? Because we're operational. We're not a think tank. We're not academic. It's all applied research, experiential learning. And so we have piloted systems practice in 3 different areas, 3 different contexts, 3 different countries: Latin America, Asia, and Africa. And so we're learning different things. They focus on different aspects of a system.
Right.
And one of the things that we're learning is that even though generative AI can help you map a system, you have to do it in the community. So we don't do it back at our office. We do it right there in the village with people. And the funny thing is we had a board meeting in the Philippines where we looked at systems mapping with our board. And to be honest, some of our board members are a little bit skeptical because it's fairly complicated.
Right.
Communities get it. They know what to do. They're way ahead of us even. And so it's this equal learning process of what is the system? What can we do to change the system to make communities' lives better?
There's an interesting book I read. I think it's called Drive Through Dreams. And it was talking about the fast food industry and how like KFC and McDonald's and maybe Taco Bell, when they were trying to open up across borders, right? In different areas of the world, at first they failed. Right. They didn't go into the cultures and actually understand the cultures. So it sounds like the same thing here. You're going to the communities, asking the communities, what they want, how to do this. And then you're listening to them and then helping implement that.
Yeah, almost. I mean, I love that. That's a great reference. I think for us, systems practices is the next evolution of that. I see. Which is not just asking from a transactional perspective. We have, you benefit, you receive, but how do we discover together, in a sense, interrogate the assumed ecosystem around us, what's working, what's not. And then the idea is if we change this, what happens? Sort of like, a ping pong ball, going through the system. If you change this, what happens? Are there unintended consequences? What power do communities have? What agency can they exert? And it's really co-discovery together.
So I think a couple last questions are really around innovation, scale, and community ownership. And I think we've really been talking about this whole time. But the question I have here is, Food for the Hungry operates across many contexts. How do you balance innovation with local ownership and scalable solutions?
No, it's a great question. There's been a lot of talk around locally led development and localization, and we support all that. As we say in my organization, amen to all that.
Yeah.
But, I think for us, one of our learnings is that so much innovation, powerful innovation, happens locally.
Right.
And our role is to come alongside and to be catalytic, either start something that was going to start, but just hasn't, like that match, or to accelerate something that's going too slow for whatever reasons to help accelerate that. And then once it works, to validate it, because we can go at a global scale and then replicate it, right? And really that's what locally led solutions is all about. It's taking that spark that's somewhere, that potential, and then adding our contribution catalytically to see, can we validate it and scale it?
Well, a lot of our conversations today, we've spoken about indigenous people in the Amazon and, how the Amazon specifically, when indigenous people control and kind of own different areas of it, actually performs better from an ecological point of view. So I think a lot of people have talked today on this podcast about indigenous people and these community-led solutions can actually help benefit the environment.
Right.
I mean, different conversation here, but just tying it between the two.
Similar though. So for us, we've embarked on a transformational agenda for our organization we call reimagination. And we have 5 reasons why. Why'd we do that? Why are we suffering everybody go through this transformation? And one is an inequitable distribution of power. That a lot of times, I think, for years in our sector, what we've done has been necessary and beneficial, but insufficient. And it's because we've been seeing those we work with as recipients. How can we give them a degree of agency and power, a degree of ownership? And so we started what we call our shareholder council, where we're having, groups of the people we serve, we call them shareholders because they own a share, to be a part of even deciding anything that happens to them, right? And so I think that's really part of, localization is how do you give people actual ownership? What does that look like?
Right. Give people the voice, right? And they can help.
The voice and the vote. Not just to say something, but people have to contend with it. The voice and the vote, at least for our organization, one small part, but we're trying to make sure all the engagement we have include that agency and that degree of ownership and everything.
So I think in this whole conversation, with the systems approach, What are some of the challenges that you've seen?
Yeah, for systems, the tough thing is, systems are a hard thing to get your hand around.
Yeah, right.
And we assume so much like air, it's just all around you. So when you concentrate on your breathing, it's a very different, uncomfortable kind of exploration. So that's one of them. The second is anytime you see that you need to make a system change, so many things are interrelated. You cannot have a transactional, linear, additive, project-based approach. It just doesn't work. And so that's can create some ambiguity, right? And then the third thing is you can't do anything on your own. It's absolutely multi-directional, multi-stakeholder action to get anything done, right? So you got to spend a lot of time trying to mobilize groups, movements to try to do that thing. A lot of it's outside your direct control. That's challenging, right? We all like control.
Right. And I guess if you're working with these different groups, let's say government, local people, private sector, whoever you're working with, everyone has different agendas per se.
Right.
So you've got to figure out how to get everyone at the same table and speaking the same quote unquote language.
Yeah, really well said. Not just their own agenda, their own different understandings of what's going on. So one of the things that we're doing to complement resilience and systems is trying to leverage the power of platforms. With project-based work, which is really defined, at least the sector I work in, is, there's a need, we do some stuff, hopefully we made a difference, very linear, additive.
It's checked off, right?
Checked off, transactional, very good, has made a lot of difference, but really fundamentally insufficient, we think. And so can we leverage the power of platforms that allow multi-directional value exchange and creation that's not necessarily curated heavily or controlled, but organically finds and seeks that value, right? So that other players can get on the platform and exchange value, other people can seek value, and that happens in a multi-directional exponential way. Trying to figure, we're piloting that in 4 different places, seeing how that would work. So one is in the Philippines. We're working on some stuff for the tourism industry. What might that look like? Around labor and child labor and exploitation. And that's ripe for a platform, different people to get involved in the platform. So that's one of them.
And I guess I'd also ask, you talked about generative AI in the beginning.
Right.
What role does technology play today and will play in the future?
I'm old, so I'm the wrong guy to ask, but I just I was up in Boston at a program last week, and, I really discovered that there's a lot of power in generative AI, and I'm just starting to learn about it. You're way ahead of me, everybody is, but what the World Economic Forum has referred to in the last 6-7 years, the 4th Industrial Revolution, where generative AI is one of those, epigenetics is another, all different types of things are, I believe technology and AI is one of them, will fundamentally reconfigure how we understand human history. And so we've got to try to at least be, if not, we're not going to get ahead of that, but we've got to be permeable to that, right? And not be threatened by that and see where that takes us.
Well, Mark, can't thank you enough for coming on today and talking about your work. And I think we all gained a lot from that. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for the time. I appreciate it. Enjoyed meeting you. Take care.